My name is Brendan Ryan and I built the Later Life app to help older Australians and those that support them cut through complexity. In many years working with older Australians and their families, it's been really clear that the profile of older Australians can often be really simple, but all the different rule sets that are applied are not. And with new technology, it's a great opportunity to be able to take a profile and then build all the rules around it to make really clear to people how they're going to be impacted by complicated government rules. One of the really important findings of all this work that I've done in building the app is the predictive power of someone's profile. By this I mean someone's profile would indicate some of the decisions that people are going to be faced with throughout retirement, particularly around the aged care step. The benefit of using profiles to predict what people's choices might be down the track is it allows people a better opportunity to plan and cut out a lot of the noise and anxiety that comes with the uncertainty of what happens next. I hope you enjoy this demonstration of some of the features of the app.
We have cameos that you can access if you go to the Later Life Advice website. So what that means is that you just click through and there's a web version of the app with a whole lot of data preloaded. These cameos are set up to demonstrate different situations. This whole idea that someone's profile would lead to certain specific situations occurring, particularly with respect to their pension eligibility or their work story, downsizing stories, and supported home and aged care stories as well. And I've used these cameos in developing the app, so in each time I can load up a situation and just see, exactly how that person is served by the app. And it comes back to that idea of we get a profile, we apply what we call our logic, but it's not really our logic. It is all the government rules that are embedded in the code base to solve complexity. So let's have a look at Robert and Helen. Let's have a closer look. They're a couple, they're homeowners. You can see their asset position there. It's pretty simple. At this stage, they haven't been allocated care packages. I'm going to sort that out later on. They're probably not that focused on it yet, given their age. So let's have a look at some of the things that are important about Robert and Helen. So first of all, I often demonstrate this as mum and dad, right? So the reason that that's relevant is that it's just numbers, right? If it was mum or dad, we're not asking for tax file numbers or bank account details or identifying information. I often explain this, it's like an exam question. If I had an exam that said, Robert and Helen, they have this value home, super, personal, how much pension could they get? How do they look for Medicare and the PBS, et cetera, et cetera. That's what this is. It's a profile. It is not, it doesn't have any identifying information. So what do we know about Robert and Helen? Well, they are eligible for the pension, but they're getting about half the rate of the maximum pension as a couple. What that means, if we look a bit closely, I like to look at things in terms of annual numbers. A lot of people get into a fortnightly routine as they're retired. Classic system issue is the first thing you have to do is to try and rebase everything in such a way that works for you. Some things are referred to as weekly costs or payments, fortnightly, daily, yearly. It's just one of the first things that you have to get over in trying to work all this stuff out. But if I was having a closer look at Robert and Helen, I would see that their age pension is based on an assets test. What that means is their assets changes, their pension eligibility will change. If I was them, I'd be keeping a close eye on, if there was a reason that their assessable assets diminished, they might spend money on a holiday, they might do home improvements, there might be a change in their investment assets, so they make sure Centrelink's up to date, so they're getting the right amount of pension. That's kind of, I'd say, the easy step, but calculating the age pension is not actually that easy, and some of the inputs can be challenging, and of course it depends on you're a couple, a single homeowner or not. So the first step, Rob and Helen are probably interested in knowing how much pension they can get. and making sure they're getting the right amount. Being in receipt of the age pension, they'll have a pensioner concession card, and there's a very simple way. Once again, if this was on a mobile phone, it would be just great. I mean, it's mobile first, but I think it looks good on desktop as well. In Victoria, for their pension concession card, as in for most states, it kind of starts out mainly for utility discounts would be the first thing you'd look for, gas, electricity. It varies whether you live in a home or in a park or something like that. There's transport concessions, often there's discounted driver's license and registration, rates, medical, and these concessions add up to significant value. And it is it's a game that people tend to get better at once they've retired and got their concession card. The point of the app is just to get right onto it straight up. Or if mum or dad say they need help, and you're supporting them with their simple profile, knowing they're getting the pension and they have a pensioner concession card, you could sit down with them and make sure you check off all their concessions or do an annual review, or whatever. The world of concessions, entitlements, rebates, etc., is a big world. We've done a lot of work on it. It's one of the first things that we did. It started out as incredibly laborious. It's got better, particularly with the advent of having AI agents, allowing making sure all the concessions are up to date. But that's a really so much more complicated than I thought it would be. Some states accept a pension concession card but want you to be a resident. Some states don't care. There's different postcodes in WA, for example, that have support for air conditioning costs or whatever. Like it's a big world, and for retirees with their cards, it's like a game of whack-a-mole. You just got to keep on it. And I think my app does a great job of making that a lot easier. Medicare and the PBS, very important for older Australians. There was a potential to go, completely down a rabbit hole with Medicare and the medical system, but I thought for the app we just keep it really simple. Explain that you're eligible for the card, and you just show your card at appointments. There's a link through to the government website to help people find bulk billing providers as well. And once again, the mechanics of the PBS, I could go through and explain, how that works, and it's really quirky. But I thought we'd just reduce it back to this basic thing: is you've got the card, this is how you use it, and you can register as a family as well. And from my experience, the Medicare safety net and access to the PBS is phenomenally important to older Australians. And with the pharmaceutical benefit scheme, the way the system works, it's kind of got like an open-ended benefit if you need a lot of medications. Obviously, if you don't, it's not as useful. Another area I felt very passionate about, and something I wanted to approach in a super low cost and efficient way for people, is the story around work and pensions. Very often I've come across people that might have very little savings and are still working well into pension age to try and build their retirement nest egg or reduce debt or whatever, not realising that the way that their income works with the pension tests is that they can get to a point where for every dollar they earn, they give up 50 cents in pension. So the idea of working for half price and not knowing about it is kind of heartbreaking. So there's certainly a story there. And in the case of Robert and Helen, they're part pensioners, so the level at which their income will start reducing their pension by 50 cents for every dollar is unique to them. And it's not an easy story because you've got, you can have like a bank of saved work bonus. It should be easier, but it's not. If at least people understand or have some focus on the proposition that if you have a job and you're eligible for the pension, there should be a number that you realise that when you're earning more than that, you're giving up pension, and you just got to. It's fair that you get to understand that number. The Home Equity Access Scheme is something that is really interesting in the context of what we're talking about. This is the predictive potential of a profile. So Robert and Helen, they've got savings. So there would be as their savings diminish, their age pension eligibility goes up. So there'd be no real reason for them to borrow against the home as they're drawing down their savings, because their pension eligibility goes up over time. Having said that, if they were nearing the potential for residential aged care, the home equity access scheme has value, and I'm going to talk about it in a minute. But one thing that I'm really strong about is that people can kind of understand that they've got access to the home equity access scheme, and to have it set up, it's cheap to set up. If they're going to potentially have an issue with funding aged care, it's a great story, right? So there'll be this is something for each person to work out on their own. And obviously, if you don't own your own home, or in a retirement village or land lease community, you don't have access to this. You might have assets that don't generate income that stop you from getting an age pension, and then you can use the home equity access scheme to get a pension-like cash flow to live on, and it's at 3.95%. It's like the best rate in town. So yeah, the home equity access scheme is a great story for those who need cash flow during their retirement years, but it also has some very specific application in residential aged care. Downsizing maths, to me, it literally is maths, right? There's it's a case of understanding if you were to sell your property and buy a property of less value, or move into a retirement village of less value, there's some transaction costs in the mix. Land lease communities and retirement villages, there's no stamp duty. And in some states, downsizing, there are stamp duty exemptions. For example, in Victoria, in this case, there is a stamp duty exemption. And for retirees who are getting the pension and downsizing, for example, to a retirement village and freeing up capital, they're going to want to understand what that means to the cash flow situation. So that maths is handled in the app, and it's very important for a lot of people. And it shouldn't be, to my mind, it just shouldn't be a mystery. It should be easy to do, and that's what we're trying to do in the app. Now, this is where I think the app has particularly strong potential, but really for the children looking after mum or dad who are moving into a supported home situation. Obviously, they're needing help. And with the physical help of supported home, more than likely they're needing some help managing their affairs. Now, for Robert and Helen, I'm going to give Robert a level 4 package, just for the sake of this demonstration. And as they have with supported home, get ready for it. It's really confusing. The way it's designed, I think by someone with spreadsheets, and not designed to be easily understood. People needing support at home will need different kinds of support. There's the everyday living support, which is things like cleaning and gardening; independence, which is personal care; clinical, which is the nursing. Each of them attracts its own amount of co-contribution from the user. So that's the first challenge, is working out exactly what that co-contribution is. Then you've got to understand how much these components cost. You've got to get your package, which, say, for a level 4 package is $27,000 a year. I don't know, what does that even mean? Like breaking that down into a weekly amount, taking off the 10%, with which the package provider takes off, then looking at potential cost per hour, then turning that into what is like a likely amount of hours per week. The calculations, to me, are possibly the most complicated calculations of any stage of later life, and I've spent a lot of time trying to break that down into a format that's useful for people. Unfortunately, it can't be made super simple just because it's not. But there are a number of inputs that you need. You need to know the amount of package. You need to know how much services cost, and what's included in those services, the administration journey. It's in the app. Spent a lot of time getting support at home right. Just came in last November. That is a big story, and it's going to be potentially 1 million Australians in this story in a year's time. It's massive. And to my mind, whenever there's confusion, it does lend itself to some, participants in the market that profit from the confusion and complexity. So if you can work to take that complexity away and understand it, and it takes effort, for mum or dad, you're going to get a better outcome. One of the things that it is complicated. We do have what's called classification logic. So the rules for your contribution to support at home, they are complicated, and it starts with how your assets are assessed, which the rules to that are different than for pension or for residential aged care. But because we've got your profile in the system, we can run the complicated rules over your profile to work out what your contribution is to support at home. So that's where we get this fancy chart. It's probably more for the analysts. I'm a financial analyst. I love this chart. I love the way that I can get someone's profile and then have a little dot on a chart that's pulsating to say, here you are. So support at home, most people don't really want to know much about it until they're in the thick of it, and then they want to know everything about it. So that part of the app, I'm very proud of the outcome there, and I think that support at home and understanding it is just going to be so important for Australians. Getting back to the cameos on the website, for example, for Robert and Helen, their support at home is calculated in a certain way. We've got Margaret, who's like a self-funded retiree, and for her, her co-contribution to everyday living, which can be up to 80%, is 80%. So if she was looking at getting things like a gardener in at $118 an hour, and then she had to pay 80% of that, she'd be trying to, whoever's helping Margaret, I guess, would be looking at saying, well, should we pay 80% of $118 for a gardener and run it through a package, or should we get private services? So hell of an optimization there. This is something that's really important. This is something that is not easy, but hopefully we're making it easier on the app. And finally, residential aged care, which is something I've been doing for more than 25 years. I have converted all my spreadsheet models to software-based models in the last 6 months. I'm blown away by what we've been able to achieve with converting spreadsheets into software using the AI tools that are available, the way we can present information, the speed at which we can calculate it, the ability to approach complexity when rules are in code and they're tested. They get very secure, and it's easy to be really confident. So it's been an extraordinary opportunity to address the complexity in the new aged care system by building software apps for what I would call people who have second order complexity for residential aged care. And the reason I refer to second order complexity, well, there's this idea of the profile, leading to people's situation. The profile for Robert and Helen is that they're going to be in this zone where they're going to have to pay the RAD, and they're going to be contributing to the cost of care through means tested costs. Now, if they're going to pay the RAD, they're going to be having to take their savings to pay this lump sum, and that's where this particular situation would lend itself to having the home equity access scheme set up. And so what the app has been able to do in a way which I just think is really happy with, is that we're able to put together a strategic pathway based on what is predicted in their profile. Okay, so What's really, really important to take away from this is it's not arbitrary. Anything that is proposed is based in logic and is based in legislation and is based in some really serious heavy lifting that's been able to be done through software. So the ability to have this, in the palm of your hand to say, with Robert and Helen, there's a likelihood for the partner remaining in the principal home, so that's exempt from the aged care means test. But then they have to, fund a lump sum deposit. That they're moving that money, they'll get an illness separated pension, and they've got to, look at how much is going to fund Helen staying at home. So you can see the complexity of this is really, starting to dramatically ratchet up. So the residential aged care component of the app, explaining the fees, explaining how the accommodation costs work, having a direct link to My Aged Care to help people find out the refundable accommodation deposit amounts in their area. Once again, I can't stop this from being complex, but I can help people address the complexity, and this app does do that. So this idea that we have predictive outcomes based on the profiles I refer to as aged care lanes. These guys fall in the sort of homeowner with a partner at home and market price. There tend to be about 9 or 10 variations of it. These can be selected based on profile, and it makes it really, really useful for families supporting an older person. So that hopefully gives you some sense of the just of the outright complexity for a later life Australian with all these different steps. And hopefully you've got a sense that in each of these components, particularly working, how much the home equity access scheme is worth, doing the maths and downsizing, supported home and residential aged care, just how phenomenally complicated it is. But when you look at Robert and Helen and their asset position, it's actually really, really simple, right? So to me, that's in a nutshell. We've just gone through some extraordinarily complicated components of the journey. Yet their financial profile is really simple. So that's kind of at the heart of the Later Life app. I hope that's been a good rundown. Obviously, there's just so much behind this, so much work, and there's obviously going to be a lot of work in keeping it up to date. That if you're someone who is working with Later Life Australians, if you're an aged care provider and you're trying to help people on their journey to get to where they need to be in terms of where they think their residential aged care process works. For supported home, I just think that area is going to explode in terms of people trying to understand the complexity. Downsize the maths, I think that's actually the least of people's worries, but it should be easily solved by this app. Please have a look. If you're in the industry, please get back to me. I'd be really interested to hear your feedback.